This is the Jack Rice Show. Welcome to the program. I recall being in Iraq some time ago, and I was out with the 10th Mountain Division. We were hit by an IED. Afterward, I was standing in a circle with a bunch of these young men, 20 to 25 years old, as they described just about dying on multiple occasions. And I thought to myself, when they're my age, what kind of head cases could some of these kids be? So when we talk about Iraq, it's not just about what's going on right now. I'm also thinking about it from the perspective of what happens in the future. Hence, I want to turn to Congressman Phil Gingrey. He's on the Armed Services Committee, and he joins me from the great state of Georgia. Congressman, thank you very much.
Jack, glad to be with you.
Yeah, I started with this story because, from my perspective, that is a part of this question. It's real, and I just wonder if we've really thought about just how serious this issue is going to become, if not today, tomorrow.
Well, Jack, obviously you're going to have post-traumatic stress syndrome. You're going to have closed head injuries and that sort of thing. This has been going on in previous wars as well. Maybe a little worse in this situation because we've done, I think, a very good job of protecting our troops in Humvees and the new MRAP vehicles, V-shaped hull that helps defray the shrapnel away from their bodies, but it's been very difficult to protect them from traumatic shock. And these are very powerful IEDs, and they get more powerful every day. And so you're going to have a certain percentage of that. As far as post-traumatic shock stress syndrome, when I was a medical student many years ago, back in the late 60s over in Augusta, Georgia, the Medical College of Georgia, we had an opportunity to examine some of the veterans from World War I even, and maybe a few from World War II. And it was sad, but the good thing, thank God, most of our men and women are able to come back from a combat situation, maybe multiple deployments where they see some pretty god-awful things and maybe even sustain some injuries themselves, and they go on and lead productive lives, and I don't mean just physically but also mentally. So we're doing a lot of work. I want to commend the Veterans Administration and the great medical facilities we have. We're doing everything we can to protect, restore, and get these folks back into society or back with their unit if that's what they want to do.
I wonder about that. I look at what was going on at Walter Reed, what was highlighted by the Washington Post, what a lot of people were talking about. But I can look here in Minnesota and other places around the country where a lot of these vets, they come back. For instance, not that far from where I am, there were 12 beds available for those with PTSD before the Iraq War started. There are still 12. And regardless of the fact that the Minnesota National Guard had the longest-serving brigade in Iraq for some 18 months at one point, and the number of people who have come back, besides who have come back because of the closed head injury issues, that there's an expertise here, there still aren't more beds there. And that's true around the country. So when we say it's getting better, my question is, really? If we say that they're heroes, then why is it that I still see 12 beds when there were 12 beds before, even though the need is doubled, tripled, or more?
Well, Jack, you can probably find pockets across the country where there is a shortage. You might find other areas where there is a surplus. But what is more important, actually, than the number of beds at one particular location is, are these troops getting the care they need somewhere? If not right there in the Minneapolis area, are we doing what we need to do to get them to a place where they can get the care? And I think we are. It's not to say that we don't need to continue to work on this. And, of course, the longer this conflict goes on, the more injuries that are sustained, the more need and the more pressure on the system. So you're always going to be a little bit behind. You're playing catch-up, if you will. But here again, the members of the Armed Services Committee on the House and Senate side, both Republicans and Democrats, are committed to providing that care. That is our pledge to train, equip, protect, put them, if at all possible, in an unfair fight. We don't want a fair fight. We want our troops to have the advantage if they sustain an injury, to bring them back as quickly as possible to save their lives, do the surgery was necessary, get started on the rehabilitation, both physical and mental. As you point out, this is a commitment that the Congress has to these patriots who are protecting this country. So we owe them so much.
When we look at Iraq, it seemed that it was almost obsession for the American people as they watched this for a while. And then we seem to have moved on. And what we have moved on to now is gas prices, the economy. And some want to say, well, it's the Democrats' fault. Some want to say it's the Republicans' fault. Whose fault is it, really?
Well, it's hard to point fingers and blame, but I would say we could go back probably to 1978, 79 when we were in this situation before. And we didn't do what we needed to do. We didn't at that point develop alternative sources of energy. We remained dependent on oil, fossil fuel, with our 16% domestic production and 65% or more that we import. But just because the prices went back down, we went back to sleep. I hope and pray that we never do that again. But it looks like to me that with the new Democratic majority that's been in place 17 months now, and actually gained their majority with a pledge to do something about oil prices, energy prices, bring down the price at the pump. This has been the most do-nothing Congress, this 110th that I have ever seen. So, it's time, it's past time, and that's why the Republican minority made a pledge on the steps of the Capitol this morning, just within the hour, where our leadership said to the American people, we do have a plan, and yes, it does include drilling off our shores on the outer continental shelf. It also includes tapping that oil at the ANWR, Alaskan National Wildlife Reserve, where we know in that frozen tundra we can produce 1.5 million barrels a day. We also understand the necessity of more refineries in this country, and not just in the Gulf of Mexico, and the need to go back and start nuclear power once again. We have maybe 100 nuclear power plants across this country, but we haven't had a new one in over 35 years, and that is absolutely absurd. France produces about 85% of their electricity with nuclear power. In fact, next week, I'm going to be going to look at what they're doing over there in regard to generating power, which, by the way, they sell to other European countries like Germany.
If I'm not mistaken, I guess it was 1976 in Louisiana where the last refinery was built. But again, if I look at what the Democrats have done or not done in the last 16 or 18 months, I guess I could go back to the 6 years that the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. And my response is, well, what did they do? We can go back to 2005 and look at the energy bill that the president pushed, and in fact even was working to gut on the Republican side, saying, let's not have any standards for gasoline. Let's let the free market drive this issue. And my response is, it has. It's driven it right here.
Yeah, well, let's go back if you want to do that. Let's go back.
I'm with you. We could go back a long way. I blame everybody.
Let's go back to, maybe 1995, 96.
That too.
When Bill Clinton repeatedly vetoed a congressionally passed law to allow us to drill in ANWR. And he continued to block that, and now the Democratic majority is continuing to block it. There is so many things we can do, and we started at the top of the show. I think your question to me was who's to blame. Well, you made a point, and I think a fairly good point. There's a lot of blame to go around. But it's time to get past that in a bipartisan way. I wish we could do this in a bipartisan way and say, look, nuclear power is clean, it's safe, the environment would be better. In the long run, it's cheaper. What sense does it make that of the 65% of imported petroleum products, that 3% of them are refined products?